Why not counseling? Why not meditation? I think you meant mediation. Why no contact? Why did I tell my daughter such terrible things? How didn't I notice it before she was 6 years old? Okay, so that's a lot of questions and a lot of opinions and a lot of victim blaming and shaming in there, by the way. Whew. So, the reason there was no counseling is because my mother wouldn't go to therapy with me. Can't do it on my own. Mediation wasn't an option because she wouldn't go to counseling with me because she didn't want to own any of her behaviors. And why would I tell my child such terrible things? Well, first of all, why aren't you asking why my mother did such terrible things? Don't you think that a mother dropping her 5, 6-year-old, that was me, out of a 2-story window, trying to unalive her, and I walked away with 2 broken arms, don't you think that's a terrible thing? Which, by the way, I didn't tell my children. They didn't come to know that until much later in life. And as far as noticing it earlier, I was 17 years old when I had my little baby girl. I had lived on the streets. I ran away from home at 13, trying to escape my mother. Social services sent me back to my abuser, no questions asked. And my mother showed up for my little girl like this incredibly unrecognizable, loving being. She would play with her, she would coo with her when she was an infant. And in between the time she was an infant up until age 6, my mother's relationship with me was on and off, which meant that her relationship with my daughter was on and off. My daughter was also her golden child. And things didn't become apparent until I had my son. Because at that point in time, that's when my mother really ramped up, I don't know. She really went big. And when she went big, that's when I went home. Go big or go home, and took my children with me. She was exposing my eldest daughter, who, when I went no contact, was 6 years old, to movies like Poltergeist, and telling her, don't tell mommy. So she's telling my child to keep secrets from me, essentially lied to me about what she saw or what she did. And there were other movies and other inappropriate things. And she was treating my daughter like she was the best thing in the whole world and would let her do and have anything that she wanted, even things that were unsafe, like watching something that actually traumatized my daughter. You know how I found out about Poltergeist? Because my little girl had a nightmare that she would have never had to have had, but for the fact that my mother exposed her to a really terrifying movie for me as an adult, let alone a 6-year-old. But hey, don't, ask me why I would say such terrible things, but not why my mother would do such terrible things. When my mother started to exhibit these behaviors where she treated my son like he was non-existent and elevated my daughter, and was also, it's called triangulation, by the way, trying to create division between my daughter and myself, trying to erode the trust that she should be naturally building with me because I was a trusting, loving parent, and all of those things. I asked my mother not to do those things. I asked her certain things very specifically. I tried to explain why to her, not understanding the whole time. She knew exactly what she was doing, and it was on purpose. And when I recognized that she would not go to therapy with me, that she wasn't going to alter her behavior, and that my children were being put in harm's way, I did something she would have never done. I protected my children, as opposed to my mother, who actually pretty much gave me to child molesters, by the way. And here you are coming at me like I did something wrong. And as far as telling my children terrible things, telling my children that their grandmother isn't a healthy person, that she hurt their mommy when she was a little girl and I'm okay now, and giving them information that was age appropriate, and modeling for them that we don't stay in relationships that are harmful to us. I'm failing to see where I fell short there. And what I didn't know at the time that I understand now is I was breaking a chain and a cycle of abuse. And no matter how many questions you ask, that isn't going to change what I accomplished. I don't know if you're going to get it or not. I don't really care if you get it or not because I get it. And my children, incidentally, are all adults now. I have 3 adult children, 2 grandchildren, one of them going to turn 18 really soon. And everybody's doing incredibly well, and none of them missed out on any love or relationships as a result of my decision. Just in case you were curious about how it all, ended up without having my mother in our lives.